We have a lot of time to reflect on what had happened. The second round of pharmacy walkout, aka Pharmageddon, it would be appropriate for us as pharmacists, also in this profession, to reflect on where it's going. Is it where we want to see? Hello, everybody. Welcome to the HairX Friends We Got This podcast, where we share our thoughts on the pharmacy profession, experience as healthcare providers, and explore our identities as two women of color going after it all.
As we share our stories, we hope you laugh, maybe cry, and feel inspired as you get to know us, because at the end of the day, remember, friends, we got this.
Woohoo! Hello. Hi, Sally.
Hi, Thu. How are you?
I'm doing well. By the way, my name is Thu.
Yes. And welcome. I'm Sally.
And I'm so happy for everyone to be joining us today. So glad that we can come back together and reunite.
Yes.
It's been a while since we filmed, I think. It's been like maybe a month.
Yeah.
That's always my favorite part of the month, is to get to reunite with Sally.
It really is. It really is. I look forward to it. I look forward to this. I look a little crazy if you're watching on YouTube. Thu looks really warm and just like a regular person. And I have a scarf, and it's because I live on the East Coast and it's trashy here and ghetto and cold and it's miserable.
It's already miserable. It's November 14.
Yeah.
So how many months left of this do you have?
And just hearing me complain for a really long time. And maybe next episode I'll be wearing a beanie. I don't know. I'm just miserable.
That's so funny. So ironically, I'm really hot over here. Like every time we film, I'm always like sweating. I don't know why. I'm also like dressed a little bit warm to like give the illusion that it is cold, even though it's actually the weather is quite perfect over here.
Thank you. I'm not jealous. Not one bit.
No, I think it's like 75 degrees today.
Oh my gosh. That's
quite lovely.
That really is quite literally perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
I woke up like 35. I'm like, oh no.
Oh, how do you even get out of bed? I would not. No. I would just, hibernate for the whole winter. Can you imagine? That would be the dream. I think that would be the dream for me, is to like not work all winter.
Yeah.
Would that be the best career? What? Just be like,
what? We need to think about
I work on my own time. If you're watching on YouTube, please like the video, subscribe, and write a comment. We would love to hear your thoughts on what you think about our discourse here between Sally and I. Yeah. Our conversations are meant to be an open invitation for you guys to send in your thoughts as well. We don't want to just be talking to ourselves, even though it's enjoyable. We want to hear what you have to say as well.
Yes, we love to hear your take on it, and reading and reviewing the show, writing comments, engaging with us. Not only does it keep us encouraged and keep us going, but also it allows other people to discover us. And that's what we're doing this for, to create a community, invite everybody in, and make it a space where everybody can come in and really feel like this is a safe space for all of us. And so,
not only a safe space, but I've always wanted this to be just like a very entertaining time. Like
it's a relaxing place.
Like if you've had a hard day and you just want to like hear about pharmacy, but not stressed out about like the pharmacokinetics and all of this stuff that you have to deal with all the time at work. You just want to hear like chit chat about the profession, but in a fun, lighthearted way. Come join us, because sometimes we just all need a little bit of that company, I think.
That's us.
Yes, we can be your best friends. Your best pharmacy friends.
You really can.
That's the title of our podcast.
You're so funny.
It just hit me. Our ex-friends, we got you. But on a much tougher note, I do want to talk about this a little bit, just because I was listening to the New York Times podcast yesterday. And the episode yesterday was on the hospitals in the Middle East right now,
Oh my gosh.
kind of in the middle of a war, and
Mhm.
just really thinking about our colleagues overseas. I mean, yes, they are thousands and thousands and thousands of miles away from us, and yet I have never felt
Close.
more like connected to these members in healthcare that are, oh my gosh, just listening to their story and the fact that they're suffering so much, and yet many of them don't wanna leave the hospital because they don't wanna leave their patients. That just it breaks my heart, but it also that's what makes me connect to their story because I can see that. I can feel it, our duty to our patients, and it's so wild that there are people like that exist in this world.
100% though. Like you're spot on. I have nothing to add to it. It's like they're really, really far away, but as they share their stories, you realize like where they are doesn't even matter. You connect, you understand. Like it isn't inconceivable for you to think that if there was a need, you would absolutely do this. Like you would run there. Like you can understand how someone would do something like that. It's almost like hero is not sufficient. It unfortunately is the best word that I
I like angels, maybe.
but we are absolutely with them and praying for them, and
Mhm.
it's an impossible situation over there right now.
Yeah.
Impossible situation. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of sadness. So yeah, let's pray for peace soon and for those innocent lives to be saved.
Absolutely.
Um, but yeah, all right. Well, let's move on to the rest of the show. So hopefully we have something really fun and interesting for you guys today.
Yeah.
The first part of it, because
Lord.
we did a whole entire bonus episode when we first saw the Kansas City walkouts. We said to ourselves, we need to do a bonus episode and we need to put it out ASAP. And we
ASAP.
did. It was a very quick turnaround.
Mm.
This time we have a lot of time to reflect on what had happened. The second round of pharmacy walkout, aka Pharmageddon, was what the social media had adapted. That was the name. And Sally and I don't think we've really talked about this. We never really discussed our thoughts on this, but there was definitely some request for us to go back and do an update on our thoughts. So I thought it would be a good time to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's changed. It has not changed, but things have evolved. That's I think like what I've noticed, because what I've done is kind of keep tabs on what's been going on with it since we
Mhm.
did our reaction episode. And we we've elevated the rhetoric a little. We've elevated our actions a little bit. I'm really proud of I'm proud of pharmacists. Like for a really long time, I always just felt like as a profession, we were really, really good about behaving really, really well and staying really, really quiet about what we did and what we went through. This place that we are in right now, I am celebrating this for the profession. Um, this place where we are making noise, we are describing and talking about what we do boldly and loudly, and not asking for permission, but making demands for what we feel like not just we deserve, but our patients deserve. And I know we'll get into a lot of this in more
Mhm.
detail.
So I think what I want us to discuss today is more of like how well do you think we're actually making a difference? And of course, I know the like I'm I'm not delusional. I understand that it's going to take years and years and years to make any actual change. And I think this is a really cool first step
Yeah,
to see that. But at the same
yeah,
time, I think it would be appropriate for us as pharmacists, also in this profession, to reflect on where it's going. Is it where we want to see? And I
yeah,
think we would not, you know, I think we would lose a really good opportunity here to have an important discussion. So,
I
for the
agree.
first part of it, I hope I'm not lagging camera-wise, internet-wise,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna be sharing 2, videos, news clips of pretty prominent, like, national headlines, basically, and one of them is gonna be with, CBS, and then the
Mhm.
other one is going to be with Fox Business,
Mm.
and, yeah, it's actually really, really cool to see our profession being represented, so in such a national way, but
Yeah.
I also want to, like, deep dive into the actual content of the clips because
Yeah.
there are some things that I liked, and there's some conspiracy that I'm cooking up in this little brain. What?
I can't wait to get into this part because you just keep saying it like that. You're like, there's some conspiracy. And I'm like, where is she going with this? I cannot wait for this big reveal. Um, because I really, so let's get into it. Because like
Okay,
you've been
let's
hinting
do it.
at
I
it.
know, I know, I'm driving you nuts. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm gonna share the screen,
Yeah,
and, let's see. Can you see it? And then can you hear it?
it's not playing yet on my
Okay,
end.
I'm gonna play it right now. Oh, yeah. Like, can you hear it?
Important. That's kind of that's kind of important.
Have you had a devil of a time picking up prescriptions at your local pharmacy? Not all of them, but a lot of those at CVS and Walgreens, the pharmacy staff, contemplating taking a 3-day walkout from the job. And not all are participating, but there are reasons behind this. Shane Jarminski is a licensed pharmacist helping coordinate this latest protest. Shane, very good to have you. First of all, what is this about?
So, Neil, this is more about patient safety than anything else. Without an adequately staffed pharmacy, patient safety is at risk to the point of a public health crisis. And we are advocating for more help in the pharmacy. Usually when you walk in, there's only one pharmacist behind the counter and a handful of technicians if you're lucky. Without adequately staffed stores, primarily comprised of technicians, we're going to have unsafe pharmacies, and our ability to practice is going to be, our hands are going to be tied.
What if the stores like CVS and Walgreens, already facing financial pressures, don't budge? I mean, some of them are closing hundreds of stores in the process.
Financial pressures because of the business model that they've built. They want to have access to pharmacies on every single corner in this country. Maybe they're just going to have to rethink their entire business structure. It's not going to be access on every corner, but maybe safe access on every other corner. And really, we don't want to. I'm sorry, but I don't want to practice as a pharmacist and someone who went to school for 8 years in order to get to that position. I don't want to risk my license for the sake of the corporate bottom line.
You know, people love their pharmacists, I would say, almost as much as UPS drivers or whatever stop by their house. There's a special kinship a lot of folks have for their pharmacists. If you walk out, or some of them.
Sorry. What?
My gosh.
He just compared us to
Listen,
UPS drivers.
the comparison. What? What?
What?
I'm done. Oh,
So, apparently
I have arrived in life. You know, I am as liked as the UPS guy.
listen, nothing wrong with UPS drivers, and apparently some of them make quite a bit of money, but the fact that you're comparing healthcare providers
Yeah,
to something completely not healthcare providers,
not healthcare provider related.
problematic. This is
This,
like this is the narrative of pharmacists.
I
Okay.
let the man finish, and then that's gonna give me a chance to think too. It's gonna give me a chance to get my chest to just unwind a little.
Oh no. Okay, let's go.
Walkout. Are you worried you'll lose that?
We're trying to preserve that relationship. That's the impetus behind this. The pharmacist has had a storied history of being the most accessible healthcare professional in communities, small and large, across this country. And if we don't do this, if we don't preserve that relationship, it's just going to be another commodity. And you know how long it takes to go in to see your doctor. I don't want it to be like that. I want you to be able to go into any pharmacy and be able to have that 10-minute conversation about your health with a pharmacist.
You know, I was thinking, when I'd be talking to you, Shane, are you worried that so much of this is done online now? A lot of people get their prescriptions, what have you, sent to them, and they bypass pharmacists altogether. And that you might be representing, no offense to you, because my own profession is doing this to TV anchors, you might represent a relic.
Well, you know, some insurance companies do require pharmacists to go through mail order, and mail order has their issues. I've worked 16 years as a practicing pharmacist, and there's not a week that goes by that I don't have someone come in where mail order has dropped the ball, or they get a medication that they need immediately. If you're new to therapy, if you have an antibiotic, you're not going to wait 3 days for mail order to come. Yes, I realize sometimes it's less than that now, but there's still a need for pharmacists. And while our role is expanding, we're doing vaccinations, we're doing health testing. The role of a pharmacist is never going away, and it's going to stay that way for years to come.
All right, we'll see how this all settles out. Shane, thank you very much, Shane.
Yeah.
What's going on in your brain?
You know, my UPS guy is so good. I'm sick. Yeah. And now I'm stuck on that because, you know, I heard that. Like, I'm stuck on that instead of like hearing everything else that was said in that interview.
You have a reaction to the relic part too.
Yeah, a reaction to the relic part. It's like, what? So this goes back to the heart of my case and argument, in that we have traditionally been really, really good at being well behaved, really, really quiet. Even if we want change, the way we ask for that change has got to be in a nice, professional, polite way to ask, right? Like, the way we ask for change matters, that delivery is really, really nice.
Oh God, that's like part of your training.
It's part of your training.
It's like, okay, this is my recommendation to the doctor. Could you double check and make sure that it sounds appropriate, sounds friendly enough? You know? Like, aggressive, you know, assertive but not aggressive is what we're taught, which is, I think it's appropriate. You don't want to be aggressive in the workplace, but there's a huge part of us that feels like we have to please everybody. We have to be nice all the time. Like, you are the profession that you cannot play big, basically.
No, you can't. I would agree with that 150%. You know, like, where other professions, they take big swings and they organize in bold ways. They strike. Like, I've worked in many hospitals where nurses have striked multiple times. But pharmacists, it's not, even if you want the way the schedule is published to change, the way you ask for that has got to be a really nice and perfect. When it's like, when I got hired here, I was promised that the schedule will come out 6 weeks ahead of time. Here we are. It comes out 3 days before the week kicks off.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, what we are seeing now, that's the piece of it that I think is a win, that I think is a shift that I am celebrating. That shift in our tone, in our posture, in the way we are asking for things to change. That shift, I have to acknowledge that and really applaud that, because that is not something that I ever envisioned that would happen in pharmacy, because it's just, you have to be nice and professional and all that thing.
Yeah.
So I think, to me, that's one of the other thing is, like, being compared to the UPS guy, like, that's fine, I guess. It's just that
we went to like 8 years of school. I don't know if UPS drivers go through so much training to be compared to pharmacists.
It's
a different
It hurt when I heard it. It hurt when I heard it. It was like, pow. That was
But see, that is the stereotype that pharmacists have always been given. It's like this, like nobody actually in the community, nobody knows what we do.
Yes.
And that's like the hurdle that we actually have to overcome before we can even get the support of our community. Like, I think I see some comments from different, from patients like, oh yeah, I go to CVS and I see how difficult my pharmacists work or how hard my pharmacists work. Like, how can I support you? But that's really rare. It's usually like, oh, I'm married to a pharmacist, so I know how difficult things are. I'm related to somebody, but like not in the general public. Nobody knows what we do, and nobody understands why it's so difficult and why we're asking for this change. You see that news reporter, they're like, all right, well, we'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
They don't get the importance of this. They don't understand why this is crucial for patient care. But also,
you picked up on that. You picked up on that.
I picked up on a lot of stuff, Saley. That's not even the conspiracy.
It was just like, well, we'll just kind of see how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, I mean, I can see just the attitude that the news anchor had with Shane. There was not really any degree of like urgency or this is important, really. Like, I don't think he understands the importance of it at all. No. He's like, imagine if he said like, I see nursing strikes and I understand why pharmacists are also striking. Yeah. That would be the reasonable, comparison.
Yeah. Or even on an even bigger scale, healthcare professionals as a whole are coming out and complaining about the conditions in which they work in. We are expected to show up and give the patients our absolute best at work, and our working conditions are not set up to take care of us, so we can do that job.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we are not allowed to really talk about this. Or even worse, when we are talking about this and saying that this is unsafe, this is really messed up, this is unfair, priorities are really jacked up here, we have to be really courteous and tactful and polite and professional. And there are all these rules around the way we deliver that message. And so for me, I say, for me, I say
the sass is just like running off her skin.
Just, because I just think that we're too nice.
Yeah. Well, listen, there is a degree to which we do have to be strategic on how we portray, what we're trying to do. If you look 100%. At politicians, for example, they are very media trained. They know their messaging and they know how to say things the way that people can take it, appropriately, the way that they want. Yeah. So I think that there is a degree in which we do need to watch what we say, and we can't just spill out everything that's in our brain. But at the same time, we also need to figure out a way to explain what is happening, like the authentic truth, in a way that's palatable for a lot of people.
See,
you don't agree with that?
Sorry, there's a fly here. There's a fly here. See, I somewhat don't agree with that.
Ooh, okay, let's argue because I like this.
No,
this is how we're gonna get our ratings up, Saley.
Dude, like, that's not. I maybe, like, if I said I don't agree with that, it sounds like we're about to debate. But you'll see in a second that I kind of agree with what you're saying, with like a difference, not a distinction type thing.
Okay.
I feel like because what we are going through, what the profession is going through, it's like firsthand lived experiences. Like we're not watching it on TV, interpreting it, and then going out to advocate for it. That's not what's happening here. What we are advocating for, and what these brave pharmacists, people like Shane, are going out there and doing, they are out there on the front line of this thing, experiencing it fresh off the press. And I think that delivering that exactly how they feel it is imperative to getting that message out there. The people that get media trained, I think, and the people that have to be a message, when we are at the table negotiating the terms of what this thing is going to look like, I think that's going to be important. But where we are right now, we are recruiting an army. We are getting our people lined up. We are getting people to pay attention. We are getting people to know what these brave pharmacists are going through. And I think like that rawness and that in your face, like someone saying that they worked 14 hours and couldn't even finish a granola bar they opened at 8 a.m. Somebody needs to hear that and just understand that that's not okay. So that's what I'm saying. Like, yes, what you're saying is important. And I think that we're going to get there where we will need those people and how they deliver that. But right now, like when I watch Shane on his interviews, even his body language tells me like he is fired up. And I'm just like, yes, get him. Get him.
Yeah. Oh. Release the Kraken. Yeah. I love it. Okay, I appreciate that commentary because I didn't really think of it that way. But you're right. I think that there are stages to every revolution, and this is the one where we
revolution.
That we are summoning the army. Yeah. Look at the words that I'm using. What am I saying? Okay. Let's watch the second video clip because I also think that this is important. I do want you to be able to compare this one that we watched to the other one, and I want to be able to compare it because this is where I'm hearing things that are in the background. I'm hearing things. No, but I hear something that's very like there's a similarity in these two clips that I feel like is telling us something about the future.
Are we getting close to the reveal of your conspiracy?
Yeah, we're getting close. Okay, ready? Okay, let's do this.
Can't wait.
Okay.
Some staff members at major U.S. pharmacy chains like Walgreens and CVS walked off the job this week over working conditions. The three-day walkouts began yesterday. The work action follows similar walkouts last month in Arizona, Washington, Oregon, and Massachusetts. So joining us now to talk a little bit more about why these walkouts are happening is Shane Jerominski. He's a licensed independent pharmacist. I tried to make it roll off my tongue, but I don't think I succeeded. But I'm glad that you're here to talk to us about this. I know when I look sort of at my local pharmacist, which is a CVS, boy, are they working hard. I mean, it really does. Yeah. It looks like they're under pressure. What are some of the changes that you'd like to see from pharmacy chains to improve the workplace?
Well, sure. Good morning. Thank you for having me. The working conditions are incredibly difficult right now. We are pushing for technicians to have a better rate of pay. The starting rate should be $20 an hour across the board for technicians, and they should have guaranteed hours. The problem is that CVS and Walgreens are in this cost-cutting mode now that we're not in the throes of COVID vaccinations. They're just trying to do everything they can to cut costs. And the problem is that cutting costs leads to pharmacies that are very unsafe. If you're practicing in that environment, pharmacists by working for CVS and Walgreens are putting their lives at risk, and they're putting patients' safety at risk. That's the problem, and that's what we're doing this for, as the American people.
So to understand, so people who are watching this will, when they go into their CVS, they're going to wonder why the pharmacist isn't there. It's because you feel, and those of you who are striking think that there should be more staff. In other words, more pharmacists, right? Because we have to separate the people who work at a CVS and those who are behind the counter at the pharmacy counters. You would like to see more pharmacists hired, and you'd like to see an increase in pay.
So it's about technicians. It's the ancillary staff. Usually, when you walk into a pharmacy, there's only one pharmacist on duty, and that pharmacist is responsible for every clinical decision, for every prescription that goes out the door. The technicians are the integral part, though. They're the ones that are adjudicating claims, making sure that patients' insurance is working correctly. They're the ones that are filling the prescription so that the pharmacist can check it, counsel patients. But because there's a lack of technician support, pharmacists really have to only take a few seconds on every prescription. They're not able to counsel appropriately, to catch mistakes, and that's how you introduce medication errors. And we have just been overburdened with the amount of vaccinations that we have to do. In these chains, our primary job is to safely and accurately check prescriptions, but we've become vaccination clinics because the margins are so much better that most of these stores have 100+ vaccination schedules every single day. CVS and Walgreens, it's usually about one every 10 minutes, and then you're incentivized to push as many vaccines as possible. So while they're there to get their flu shot, you'll get prompts at the register if they're going to have like shingle shots or pneumonia shots or anything like that.
It's a fascinating conundrum because I'm now that I'm thinking about this, I mean, on one hand, you have these large companies like CVS and Walgreens who are attempting, like Target, also Walmart, they're trying to be a one-stop shopping for consumers, right? You can get some food, you can get something to drink, but you can also pick up your pharmacy, and you can get a shot for flu, for COVID. And yet, it does strike me that as big as they are and as numerous as they are, like, for example, here in New York City, that you might be better off in some cases going to a smaller pharmacy, but that's not easily done with people. Some people have insurance that only allows them to go to it.
Well, here is the ongoing challenge, right? Your local pharmacy, your mom and pop pharmacy, those numbers have been diminishing for the last 50 years, right? And as you know, these big chains, Rite Aid, CVS, Walgreens, they've all announced sort of mass closures of hundreds of stores. And part of the challenge that they say they're facing now, I think it's Rite Aid is dealing with some major settlements having to do with the opioid crisis. But what CVS is sort of the challenge that it says it's facing is that you're not going to the local CVS necessarily to buy your shampoo anymore or your razor blades. You can just go online and order it and have it delivered to your house, right? So they're saying we need to shift the business model. But the end result is going to be fewer pharmacies. Right? Which means more people going to a handful of pharmacies. And I imagine, and I could be wrong, when you talk about a Pharmageddon, this is kind of part of what you're talking about, is that if you think the pressure's on pharmacists now, it's going to be even greater when there are fewer places to go.
For sure, but they actually do need to rethink their business model. It might not be access to care on every corner, but access to safe care on every other corner. That's really what's going to happen, that they're going to be better staffed locations with two pharmacists there. One pharmacist that's going to be totally accessible to a patient at all times, that they can spend 10 minutes when an elderly patient comes in and needs counseling. Those types of things, that might be the new business model that they should explore. And yes, if your local store is overrun, you should go to an independent. You should walk in there and see that is the environment that pharmacists want to practice in. We just want to be able to take care of patients safely, and we're not willing to risk safety for the expense of a corporate bottom line.
So can you detail, Jerome, for us the ripple effect that you're describing here and what workers are experiencing on the job? I mean, I walked into my CVS a couple of weeks ago, and the line for pickup, then the technician came out and said, "I'm sorry, it's just me and the pharmacist." And
you can see all the prescriptions are all sort of like stacked there. I mean, all you got to do is look back there and see what the concern is.
Sure. If you think of that, there's 50. You said there's a line of 15 people. You go into any Starbucks or any other location like that, you would see more than two baristas behind the counter, but one pharmacist and one technician is the business model that they have right now. And they'll say they just don't have enough people to practice. I've seen a lot of these reports, and everything CVS and Walgreens push is that there's just not enough people. There's a shortage of pharmacists. There's not a shortage of pharmacists. There's a shortage of pharmacists and technicians willing to work in that practice environment. If I'm a pharmacist, I don't want to put my license at risk. And if I'm a technician, I don't want to work for $16 an hour when it's such a high pressured environment and I'm getting screamed at all day because I'm the only person that they see.
Shane, what an eye-opening, I mean, what you're talking about is, I think, what people are already starting to experience, and you and your fellow pharmacists say it's only going to get worse. Thank you for sharing your story with us, Shane Jarominski. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Yes. There's no shortage of pharmacists out here. Let's dead this. You know, what I was about to say. You know, I was about to say.
What were you gonna say?
I'm like, let's dead this BS narrative. Okay, that's what I was about to say. There is no shortage of pharmacists or shortage of pharmacy technicians. There is none. What we have a shortage of is people willing to continue to work in these trashy work conditions, and we continue to expect them to do that and show up and smile and continue to put their license and other people's lives at risk. That is what.
Yeah. I think I was really glad that he got that point through in this one. I mean, it was a much longer clip. There was 8 minutes versus 3 minutes in the other one. So he had more opportunity to get that point across, which I think that point is probably the most important one. And getting to compare it with Starbucks, for example, is probably going to be really useful for the people who are not well versed in healthcare. So I think he made a really good point there. And I was really excited to hear that. But so here's the thing. I'm curious. Do you see this interesting narrative of like, well, everybody's purchasing things online anyways. Are pharmacies even necessary anymore? Is that a narrative that CVS and Walgreens are pushing out? First of all, is that to kind of address the staff shortage concern, first of all, but also, is this gonna be the future model of pharmacy, of community pharmacy? Because not only one news anchor had mentioned this, but 3 at this point. And these are national news. They are getting this information directly from, these corporate companies. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this is, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sensing some sort of like foreshadowing basically of CVS and Walgreens being like, listen, this model is not working anymore anyways. And we may just cut costs and do a lot of things online at this point, which they're also trying to say, like, at the end of the day, these walkouts may not even matter, as we may be changing our model in the future. Business model. So I don't know. That's why I was like, oh my gosh, is this am I reading too much into this? Am I hearing voices in my head again, or is there something coming?
Why are you this way? She's like, am I hearing voices in my head again? Please stop. No, I think that it's a real thing, right? Because you're right. And it's one of those things, like, as you said it, I'm like, yeah, they keep going back to this place of what is the role that online shopping or how is online and mail order contributing to the current climate? And I have to tell you, like, what Shane's talking about, like mail order breakdown weekly, I'm living it right now. I'm living it.
Yeah.
It happens. My local Rite Aid pharmacy had to rescue me. Like, your community pharmacy, I pray to God, doesn't go anywhere. There's too much that they do. I walked in there the other day to talk to the pharmacist that was there as a pharmacist and ask her advice about something I wanted to pick up for my son.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? And so now that you say it, of course, now it's on my mind. I'm going to be thinking about that angle, if that's like a conversation that's taking place, but they can't be replaced.
But I'm just saying, like, this is a conversation we've had before, where we tell pharmacists, pay attention. Things are changing.
Things are changing.
And you need to be adjusting.
Girl,
And is this
that's a whole
something
nother
that
thing, right?
this is another episode. For sure.
That's right click. That's a right click here type of moment. So right click there for a second and
put that
have
thought on
that
hold.
box. Yeah, no, you need to get in that box and just right click there and really talk about that for a second, because it's a real thing. It's a real thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just saying, pay attention to all these news outlet, all the things that people are being putting out. Pay attention, because CVS and Walgreens and all these corporate companies, they're putting their messages in there. I know that these people are talking to Shane, but you know the PR is involved in this. Like, it's literally them, Shane, and the news anchors.
Yeah.
It's just that they are not there.
Yeah.
Because they don't think that it's important enough to show up for these things. So they're just going to be putting out a statement. So anyways, that is my my theory, my conspiracy theory.
No, it's definitely got me thinking now.
Yeah.
Something else I think was very interesting about this second interview is I love that the anchors actually, they seemed slightly better informed about and better prepared for this discussion than the first clip that I watched. And again, I am just full disclaimer, that clip is all I've seen of that encounter. So if there's a fuller version out there, I'd be first to admit that I have not seen the full thing. That clip is the clip that I've seen, and that's what I'm reacting to from the first one, but with Neil, that I'm reacting to. But these two anchors, they're talking about, we were just talking about that firsthand experience, right? Like, you walk in and you see these prescriptions, they're piled up everywhere. Like, she's describing what she has seen. There is a lot of power in that. And I think that it's why I'm such a fan of visual advocacy, because we can sit here and sing and talk about how the conditions are poor and how pharmacists are suffering with their mental health and showing up in a place that is just not healthy for them to safely practice in, and people who are truly passionate about the work they do in the care that they're providing to advance health in their communities, and they're finding themselves in really, really dangerous working conditions, and they can't do that. We can talk about that all we want, but if you're a pharmacist and that's your reality and that's what you're living, I want to encourage you to talk about this. We need you to talk about this. We need you to be courageous and bold and being really loud in the way you talk about this, because this is not something that we are going to fix by just dropping a note in a suggestion box.
It's not a suggestion box kind of problem.
Problem, you know?
What do you think about the retaliation, though? The fear of that?
Because
I mean, it's easy for us to sit here because we don't really have the skin in the game. And neither does Shane or Bled, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree that is true, but I'll speak for myself, right? The reason why I talk about improving conditions in learning spaces for pharmacy students and pharmacy residents, and not think twice about how I would be perceived in those spaces, even though I am in that education space as an enemy of the pharmacy education system, it's because I genuinely believe that it can be better. I don't think that it is a problem that doesn't have a solution. So if I kind of think about this that way, I want those people to have that same type of courage and conviction around their advocacy to make a difference in this area. You have to believe that the problem you're fighting can in fact be fixed, and it's not a situation that cannot be fixed. And at which point, like, what are you fighting for if you already believe, like, I'm up against these forces that can't be changed? But I talk openly about the things that I advocate for in pharmacy education, and I'm not for everyone. Some people don't agree with how I think about it, but I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with not being welcomed at all of the tables and all of the group chats. Like, I'm okay with that, because I cannot imagine one more person having any experience similar to what I had, and that isolation that comes with that, and the years of work that it takes to deconstruct that and show up, right? That's why I want to encourage the people that are in that front line there to, we need you to come out. The rest of us are here to support you. Like, you and I, our voices will go out, but you're showing up in these spaces every day, and we want you to know that we have your back, but you have to stand in front of us.
Yeah, that's a great, that's a nice little visual. Yeah, we'll catch you.
We have your back, but we need you in front of us. Yeah.
Lastly, I know this is a tough thing because, you know, you and I, again, like, we're not, when we are talking about this topic, we're not worried that we're gonna lose our retail job.
Yeah. No.
And so, and that's probably the most important thing of all, and it's a hard situation. But I do want to talk about the fact that, so with everything that went on, and there was even mentions about, you know, the stock market and like Walgreens and CVS, like at the time the stock was down, the stock's back up. So I don't think that that's a reasonable thing to even, that's not a long-term thing. We are not trying to take down these companies because that's impossible. So I don't even like to like even hear about that.
No.
And there has been news articles from Walgreens and CVS saying like, oh, only 3 stores closed. Like, this didn't even do anything. This didn't even touch us, stuff like that. And I think to a degree, like, I think that maybe it wasn't as big of a thing when Kansas City first walked out, because that was first time in a very long time that something big like that happened. So in a way, this was a little bit watered down in the sense of the shock component of it. But Bled did have a post talking about that, even though some said that they failed, in her words, she basically talked about the media that they were able, like, you know, like the media coverage that they were able to accomplish with this. And she had also said a couple of years ago there was a walkout that no one even knew about because there wasn't this kind of organization that's going on now. So even though there may not be any major changes yet, this is in a way, a blueprint of how we can continue to build upon this. I think the profession can continue to build upon it. And APHA has put out a statement backing this particular event as well.
How exciting.
And then last thing that I want to talk about, they are, both Bled and Shane are promoting this thing called Pharmacy Guild, which is kind of a campaign. I don't know if it's a campaign or if it is the union, but they have teamed up with this company called IAM Healthcare, and they've teamed up with them to establish a pharmacy union, which kind of exciting. If you guys, you know, in the future, maybe we can kind of dive deeper into this, the pros and cons of being in a union, because I don't know if I've heard anyone talk about anything like that, and I don't even really know. Like, I work for a federal branch, part of the government now, and they have a union, which is really cool. And like, I'm not part of it, but that's because honestly, I don't really know the benefits of being in it, even though we did have a guy from the union talking to us about the benefits of being in a union. I'm still like, are any of my coworkers like in a union? Should we be in one? Like, I still don't know. So I think it'll be kind of cool to maybe one day deep dive into that topic and see what
I think that's a great topic for us to
to look
talk about. Because I think when I hear union, I think like baby boomers. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I really do. As a millennial, Like as a millennial and a Gen Z, I'm going to HR union.
Wait, I'm a millennial.
I'm a millennial too, but
I was like, I'm not a Gen Z.
No, I'm just saying that like our generation,
It's like you're missing the point of this.
like our generation may not fully understand like what unionizing really means, right? Like if these conversations are taking place, we should really do something to bring some information to the Sallys of the world who will look at the union rep guy like, thank you so much for providing lunch. Okay.
We should find like a guest
to
help us with this, because I don't know if 100%. I have time to do all the research.
No. We're not doing this on our own.
Yeah. So if anybody is interested in being on that episode with us, let us know. We need a guest. We need to pick their brain.
This is going to be our only, mark my words now, the one and only episode where you're going to come to this podcast and learn.
Oh my gosh. But guess what? We're going to make it fun. Okay. All right. Let's take a quick break.
If you like everything you're hearing on this podcast, please check out my other podcast with the Pharmacy Podcast Network. It's called The Road to Match Day. It's the Resi Prep 360 podcast. It's available on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast.
All right. And we're back. And the last part of this episode will be just a quick catch up with you all. I know a lot of you had just come back from Midyear, and we like to hear about it. So, Saley, what was it like for you coming back from Midyear? What was like the whole process, and what should people be thinking about at this point? Gosh. There's a lot.
Post Midyear, I was a wreck.
Why?
Because I was exhausted. I was fresh off my surgical ICU rotation at Georgetown, which was a lot. I learned a lot. I was exhausted from that, then went to Midyear and was exhausted. But this, because we're just keeping it quick and dirty here. Oh, shameless plug. The Road to Match Day podcast, episode 2 is about your Midyear survival guide. So this is a great add-on to that because I don't really cover post Midyear much there. But if you just came back from Midyear, you are probably extremely overwhelmed. And I'm a huge believer in following up with everybody you met at Midyear. I think thank you emails, because people don't realize that programs don't have to participate in the showcase. They're not obligated. It's not a term of their accreditation, nothing. They don't have to do it. So I think it's a really great gesture, whether you connect with the RPD or not, to send them an email to thank them for taking the time to drag their residents out there to stand on their feet for a few hours just to talk to you about their program. And my other tidbit for you is there are a lot of deadlines coming up. Get organized very quickly. And it's time to activate your network. Everybody who can read your CV, who can read your letter of intent, it's time to reach out to them. Anyone who's done any type of residency is going to have something that they can contribute to your journey. And I am a huge proponent of ask anyone and ask everyone, but not every advice is for you. So your job is to receive the advice, know what you're trying to accomplish, so you know what advice is going to be the best for the journey that you're on.
Also, this time of year is really tricky because you got Thanksgiving and then you got Christmas, and then you have to turn in your application. Most of the time it's January 1st, right?
Yeah.
So that's
if you're lucky.
Really? It's sooner sometimes?
Some of them it's like December 17th, like a week after Midyear. Yeah. It happens.
Why?
It happens.
Why?
I don't know. Because programs, like some of them by the second week in January, they start making interview offers. Like,
do they think that they're just going to get like better applicants or something because they're ahead of the game?
I
can't even imagine programs forcing their preceptors and like all of the people like on the department to be sorting through applications so early. Oh, Yeah. Hey, I think that our next episode, we should do kind of like the behind the scenes of what it's like to be the people sorting through applications and what
Ooh,
programs typically look for. Oh yeah, we're not gonna gatekeep from you guys. I mean,
not gonna
why?
get.
Why would we do that,
I would
right?
be.
Yeah. It
I
doesn't
like
make
that
sense
idea.
for people who are applying to programs. They don't really know what goes behind the scenes, even though there's so many people that's already done it. And like we
Yeah.
know exactly what we're looking at when we're looking
Yeah.
at an application, and nobody really says anything. Just
Nope.
help a kid out. It is not gonna change anything.
No, it's really not. It's why, like, I tell people, like, if I know that that is a thing, I'm gonna tell you, hey, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Hey, that's not a thing. Where did you hear
Yeah,
that?
like
That is
don't worry
not
about that.
do not spend time doing that. That is not a
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
for a really long time. Like, one of the most common questions I get, if I don't go to Midyear, does that mean I'm not going to get a residency? People have that legit fear. And
So
even
interesting.
in my second episode, I address it. I tell them,
Oh.
it is not a deal breaker. I'm going to say it here now again, and hear me on this. It is not a deal breaker if you can't go to Midyear. Midyear is not cheap. Midyear is very expensive, and not everybody can afford it. And this is where we are back to the social economics and the disparities. It's across education. It's across everywhere in life. Residency application is no different. Some people can only afford to apply to 5 programs. Some people apply to 20 because they have the financial backing of a parent who's like,
Oh my God.
yeah, use the credit card, apply to as many programs
Oh my
as
God,
you.
yeah. I think I met somebody when I was going through this who applied to like 30, 40 programs and then traveled around for like
70.
10, 15 interviews. And I'm like, I would not be able to afford that. That is
Thank you.
insane.
Insanity.
Yeah. Yeah. So I completely get that. And yeah, so I hope that we can provide this kind of information for people. I mean, we like to be honest and authentic on here, and that's part of why we're doing this, is to help you
It
guys out.
is.
Mhm,
It
mhm.
is.
And I would really like to do an episode on interviews as well, because I've
Oh,
gone
yeah.
through some crappy interview experiences,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
not that I'm an expert, but
No.
I would at least share with you what not to do, because at least I've learned from that.
Tell me about a time you failed. Don't say, I don't fail. What do you mean?
Or like, I don't wanna get into it right now because it's gonna get long. But, like, yeah, let's just say I have some things to say. I have some mistakes that I need to, like, let you all know about. But if you enjoy this type of information, this type of
Yeah.
episode, if you enjoy everything that we've been doing here, we really need to hear from you. We like to get the feedback. We want to engage and interact. Like Sally said, we do need the encouragement to keep going, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, uh, having a podcast is time consuming and it is a lot of work, but we want to bring value to you.
Yes.
We can't really bring value to you if we don't quite know what you're thinking, what you're worried about, where you are in your life. Like, we want to get to know you, and we know that you're listening because
Yes.
we see you.
We
We just
see
haven't heard
you.
from you. We see you. That's kind of ominous.
What's that?
We see you. But anyways, if you want us to spill all the tea on the behind the scenes of residency, drop a comment below, DM us, let us know that this is actually something that you'd want to hear, because if you don't, we may just skip it and do something else. Okay.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for listening. If this episode speaks to you and you think that others may benefit from hearing our stories, send this to them. Let them know that we're here and we're excited to share. And this is how we're going to reach way more people.
Absolutely. This episode is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast. Please connect with us through myself. We are on all of your socials. You can find us, and how you connect with us will all be linked below in the show description below. Until next time, friends, do not forget it. We got this.
We got this.
Yes, we do.
Bye.
Bye.